Actually,
Are you guys in?
Yeah, I'm trying.
Okay.
I'm in.
Where were you in?
All right, as long as you're in.
What's
Yes.
that?
Yeah, hold on a sec.
All right.
The convention center.
Yeah, I'm in. I can see.
All right. So you can monitor.
The
Questions.
volleyball tournament there many months ago. That was a good place to be.
Yeah, no no
The
attendees.
downtown area.
Like
and,
everything,
you know,
yeah.
with the sense of everything.
Yep. 6th Street. Music and stuff.
Yeah.
I can't get in again, but that's just. What am I
The
gonna
internet or the Zoom?
The internet. The guest doesn't even come up on.
Are we all in?
Yeah, we're not.
I don't
but
even need
I'm just
everybody in.
gonna have to vamp
You
because
just need.
Okay. But Tim's in.
why would
I
this
just need to
be any
look
different?
at any
than the other
attendees in
time?
case there's a. Yeah, so I've got that covered.
So yeah, we're cool. We're ready to rock and roll. All right. So the one thing my husband said to me leaving the house:
He
"Do
jinxed
not
you.
cry."
He jinxed you.
I was like, "Oh, okay."
Tim, you may have
again.
to take this one on then.
All right. So I would like
Good,
to
I'm having a
call
little
this
word game. So you just gave me
March 23rd, 2023 meeting to order. And I'll begin with a roll call vote.
Leo Brem here.
Michelle Kirkby here.
Jessica Riley here.
Tim Knight here.
Oi. Anna Mae O'Shea Brooke here. Super. So, public input. Citizens at this time may address the committee on items of school business, either on the agenda or not. The committee will take such items under advisement without action at the meeting during which the item is presented. Matters pertaining to the reputation, character, physical condition, mental health of individuals will not be permitted. And members of the public will also be welcome to comment during the public input through Zoom. Please raise your Zoom hand. We ask that you keep your camera on when making a Zoom comment and that you follow school committee policy for public input, including speaking for no more than 3 minutes and only on topics under the purview of school committee. So, anyone here, public comment or out in Zoom land?
Check Zoom. Nobody's got their hand raised
All right.
on Zoom.
Chris Potts, 7 Kerr Street. This is a sort of a hybrid of a comment tonight. It's been really wonderful to sit at these policy subcommittee meetings and listen to all the work, the great work that's been going through the policies. It is a huge task, and I really want to give Tim in particular a lot of credit for doing this. He's been at it the longest, I think, for anybody on this committee. And I just wanted to, I know that there's a huge packet in today's meeting packet for all of you, and it's big. It's like 98 pages or something like that. And honestly, when I went through them all and after sitting at the meeting, and this actually ties into you, Anna Mae, the one section is section A, and it's policy. There's a policy that's going to be tabled, ADA. I would only ask school committee to consider tabling policy AD, because as you said, Anna Mae, at the strategic planning session the other night, The whole child is really something that we always hung our hat on at this district. And you as a school committee member all these years have been the biggest proponent of that. And I've watched it at all these meetings year after year after year after year. And even though I come and I make my comments at these meetings, you and I have always shared the similar values. We've had kids that were friends. And I just want you to know personally how much I appreciate everything that you've done and how you've hung your hat on that one thing all these years. And so I just ask as a school committee, in honor of Anna May, to maybe think about tabling this one policy so that you can have a little bit more rich discussion about it, because that one policy really talks about the whole child. So that's my comment today. Thank you, Anna May.
Right, anyone else out there?
I just want to check. No.
Okie dokies. So we'll move on to the consent agenda, the approval of the minutes for our regular session on March 9th, 2023. And congratulations to the DECA kids who
Yeah.
qualified to go to international finals. And if we can have a motion to approve the items on the consent agenda.
So moved.
So moved,
Second.
Jess, and second, Leo Brem, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, all right, yay. And congrats again to those DECA kids. New business, course level changes at the high school.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So Robert, Brenda, and Mary will be doing a short presentation, and we'll be able to answer any questions that any folks might have.
Oh, poor Mary.
Best to unmute my microphone or something. Unmute my microphone at the computer or not? Unmute.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having us, and thank you again for approving that DECA trip. It's an awesome they've done well, so thank you for that. So we're here tonight to share some information related to our grade 9 ELA and social studies programming. Brenda Hagan, one of our assistant principals, is here tonight with me, as well as Mary Brule, who's our director of student services. So tonight we'll talk a little bit about the current format that's in place for grade 9. We'll also share with you what we're looking at for next fall. We'll talk about the rationale for this change, share some instructional strategies that will be used in the classroom, and we'll talk about some outcomes that we get out of this move as well. So for those of you that have students at the high school or had students at the high school, this should look familiar to you. Our current format right now in grade 9, we have English Honors, English College Prep 1, and English College Prep 2. We have grade 9 World History Honors, grade 9 World History College Prep 1, and World History College Prep 2. I don't think you can see it behind the screen there. The new format for next year that we're looking at is we would still have grade 9 English Honors and grade 9 English College Prep. Oh, it's okay. And we would have grade 9 World History Honors as well as grade 9 World History College Prep. So a few things before we move on that I want to hit on. First, this move does not impact grade 9 math or grade 9 biology. And the reason for this is we want to be really thoughtful and measured in making this change, and we felt that focusing on these two subjects this year will allow us to ensure that our students are getting the support that they need and our teachers are getting the resources that they need as well. I imagine at some point down the road we'll have discussions about biology and math for grade 9, but we wanted to start in those two subjects for next year. As you may know, there are no other leveled classes in grade 9 at Medfield High School, and the structure of grades 10 through 12 will remain as it is. So this is only an impact for, or a change in grade 9 biology, or grade 9 social studies and English. We heard a few questions regarding honors and AP level courses. And just to make it clear, there are no plans to de-level, limit, or eliminate any of our honors or for the upper grades AP level courses. We believe it's important to appropriately challenge our students to meet their needs, and we know many of our students are ready for the rigor that both AP and honors provides. We believe, I think we offer more AP courses here at Medfield High School for a school our size than most. We're continuing to provide teachers for the training to teach these college level courses. So I just want to make it clear that those options are not changing for students down the road. Moving forward to sort of the, oh, we're not.
Pausing here.
So the rationale. So just talk a little bit about sort of the why. We believe this will allow us to provide all students with equal access to appropriate supports. It'll allow all students the opportunity to gain a foundation of skills needed to access the English and social studies curricula. We'll continue to provide a rigorous experience that will develop the skills necessary to succeed in high school. And I think it's important to remember that providing a rigorous experience and providing supports for students in the classroom are not mutually exclusive. We do this all the time. We have plenty of students who need accommodations that are taking C1 courses right now, and perhaps folks don't realize that. In fact, I think more than half of our students in grade 9 that have accommodations are taking C1 courses already. So this is work that we've done, and we feel that our students have been successful as well. Sorry, I'll go back. Well, the last bullet was the transition from grade 8 to 9. We believe this will help in the transition from grade 8 to 9, and this has been a focus of ours. As you know, it's come through NEASC and various conversations that we've had over the years. We know there can be a significant change developmentally for students when they go from the middle school to high school, and placement is challenging. It's always been challenging for us. Other schools that have implemented this format in grade 9 feel that they have a better sense of placement after having the students for a year, for the simple reason that they get a year to know them more as learners. And we believe that that will be the impact for us as well. This is a proven educational practice that many schools have done for years, and you could see, as we've shared a couple times with families now, the list of schools that all have this format in grade 9. Some actually go beyond grade 9, but there's a whole list of schools. These are just schools that we thought we had some similarities to. Dover Sherburne High School shifted to this model over 15 years ago. Lexington High and Weston High have been doing this for many years. Acton Boxborough will be doing it next fall as well. From a scheduling standpoint, there's some benefits here. Students will have an increased chance of getting their chosen electives, since most sections of the CP level will run, allowing for more flexibility in the student schedule. So not to get too deep into the weeds of scheduling, you know, when you have a singleton course, which is really just one course that we offer, students have to be scheduled into that course, and it doesn't allow for a lot of flexibility. So if you think of, for example, in a year where we would have, say, 4 or 5, so say 4 college level 1 courses and 1 college level 2, so a total of 5 courses. Next year, we would have just 5 college prep courses. What that allows us to do is now take those 5 college prep courses, spread them out throughout the day, various periods, and we can be really flexible with students so that they would have more access to some of the electives. So it has lots of benefits for them from a scheduling standpoint.
Can I ask a quick question about
as
that?
well.
Are any of those classes, what's the class size on them? Will it be capped in any way that would limit students from being able to take other electives?
Say that again.
So like, what's the max class size that one of these classes could be?
For college prep,
Yes.
all of our classes, we pretty much max out at 24.
Okay.
We don't have a balanced schedule, and that's just a whole another conversation to have. So, you know, if you have 48 students, we wouldn't necessarily have 24 and 24. It might be off a little bit. What, you know, some of our C2 classes right now have as low as 5 and 6 students. So you can see that there's definitely room for more students and more balance when we add that one class into the mix of 5. It'll actually lower the class size.
Any of those
altogether.
classes getting in that 24, 25 range, would that limit students who wanted to get into that class but couldn't in regards to them getting other electives they wanted to? Like if one of the advantages of this is flexibility,
Yeah.
I'm thinking about the ways that it could maybe not be as flexible as we would hope, and just wondering what the kind of the edge cases are on those and how we would be troubleshooting that, I guess.
Well, by having 5, let's just say 5 classes that are exactly the same, we would be able to move them out throughout the day. So if
Okay.
certain electives run one period and the student is requesting this elective, then we're able to schedule that student into another period for, let's just say, English. Whereas before, like in a C2 class, if it took place, let's just say the second block on day 2, it was always a second block in day 2, and that means that student would never have access to whatever electives
I see.
are on the other
Okay.
side of that.
So it becomes an equity issue also
yeah.
around kids who needs more support, and we're not able to expose them to larger educational opportunities because we're only able to have this one, kind of course. So
Yeah, and a big piece of this, and our department chairs couldn't be here tonight, but one of the things they talked about in the webinar last week was the similarities currently between C1 and C2. They almost run parallel to each other as it is. They have the same curriculum, they're reading the same books, the same expectations, the same learner outcomes. So we're not even seeing the difference there in terms of, an advantage to such a small class. And Mary will talk a little bit about that in a bit. And then one other last thing I just want to note, because I know this came up in one of the questions, there's no difference in GPA credit. Even currently, there's no difference between C1 and C2 in terms of the GPA weight. So this would not impact that at all. It would still be the same college level weight. So I just wanted to make sure that folks knew about that as well. So Brenda, you want to talk about the teaching a little bit?
Yeah. Just to talk a little bit about the structure of the college prep course, the instructional practices. Part of our work in helping our 9th graders transition to the high school is teaching them to become more aware of the ways that they learn best. So we teach them how to access supports with the hope that they can eventually advocate for themselves and figure out who they are as learners. So with this student-centered model, students will have multiple ways to engage with instruction and demonstrate learning. As Robert was kind of alluding to, the exit skills for any 9th grade English class are the same. So they're all based on the framework. So for example, one of the writing standards for English 9 from DESE is write an argument essay with precise claims using valid reasoning and supporting evidence. For history, you might have something like organize information and data from multiple sources. So, starting with those goals, people kind of worried about the rigor or the course, the college prep course being diluted in some way. The rigor will be maintained, same frameworks. So starting with those frameworks and then looking for opportunities to kind of differentiate in a variety of instructional techniques and provide access and supports that are more personalized. So, in their lesson planning, teachers will begin with the frameworks. They'll look at pre-assessments and informal assessments and look at flexible grouping, ongoing flexible grouping. So students aren't locked into like, oh, these would have been the students in the C2 class, so they're always going to be together in this group over here. So that's not the idea. So the idea is ongoing, looking at data, analyzing data to have these flexible groups and, provide, make stations based on, one unit a student might need remediation and another one they might be ready to stretch. We started a little bit of professional development with teachers last week during the half day. It was very well received with all of the 9th grade teachers that will be teaching these courses next year. So in this model, the expectation before may have been that, and maybe in C1 that they don't need a graphic organizer because they're in C1, or they don't need an audio book because they're in C1. But like I said, they're it gives them more access, more opportunities depending on what they need at a specific time. So we see this, change being good for all students. So we've had questions about the current differences between, or what would be the differences between honors and CP. With honors, students are entering with more independence as learners, whereas in CP, they're developing independence. Honors has a faster pace. CP is moderately paced. In honors, there's a greater degree of analytical writing, whereas CP, they're more developing those skills. In honors, reading comprehension is assumed, and they deep more into analyzing the reading, whereas in CP, there will be more reading comprehension support. In honors, there's little scaffolding and summer work assigned, and CP would have a lot of scaffolding. Let's see. And just a little bit more about differentiation, and then I'll pass it along to Mary. So, recently, like I said, our 9th and 10th grade English teachers and social studies teachers, or not 10th grade, I'm sorry, 9th grade, participated in professional development centered around this topic. So, when teachers differentiate, they make adjustments to the learning process for the students according to patterns in, readiness, interest, or learning profile. They can differentiate by modality or by complexity. So for example, they might present information in various ways, text, audio, visual, etc. They also offer multiple modalities to demonstrate learning without sacrificing rigor or the achievement of the target skill. So for example, they might demonstrate learning with writing or speaking or performing or illustrating. They provide multiple entry points for students to engage with the learning in one class. You might have stations, you might have self-paced technology, choice grids, tiered tasks. Teachers would provide supportive instruction materials, like I said, audiobooks, graphic organizers, guided notes, etc. And a variety of assessment types, including choice in various ways to show achievement in the learning objectives. In my prior life, I was an English teacher for 20 years, and I taught this type of course and this model for the majority of my career. And so, with ongoing professional development and support from department chairs and strong partnerships with special education staff, we're confident that teachers and students will find success with this model.
Can I ask a quick question about, currently we have C2 classes, and I think even maybe a C1 class that's co-taught?
Mm-hmm.
Are we able to continue to put together, maybe not a C1, but are we able to continue to have that kind of co-taught support within this without then having to channel kids specifically into that co-taught class only? Will there be variation amongst that staffing?
Sorry.
Just topple back
I'm
up
good.
here.
Thank you. Not ideal to get on crutches the morning of a presentation. So yes, Jess, great question. I think that is one of the big things that we want to make known. As you can see at the bottom of this, there will be no change to gridded services. And I think we've had a lot of conversations and questions about that in general. Will, access to a teaching assistant that might be helping, or a special education teacher that might be in that classroom, or a co-taught classroom, will those still be available? All of those options are gridded services that are legally bound to be delivered to students and will continue, not just because they're legally bound, but because they're good practices and they have been kind of honing in on the skills and the crafts within those co-taught classes, and as well as in the differentiation and supports that students are receiving. All of those will continue to be accessed. So we have a number of outcomes that we hope will kind of be achieved throughout this. The first is just thinking about those transferable skills, greater self-advocacy, and self-confidence. Teachers will be helping all students in college prep figure out what type of scaffolds and supports they need to find success, while maintaining rigor and high expectations. I can't tell you how many times just in the past few weeks, not even related to this topic, that I've had conversations with people about not knowing how you study, how you learn, how you even go through activities in high school, because people tell you, people say, we're going to have an AP exam. This is the way that it is. These are the questions that they ask. And then you get out into college, you get out into the real world, and you don't have someone telling you, this is what the exam is going to be about. This is what the expectation for this is. And you don't know how to break that down, what supports you need and what supports you need access to. Even our highest achieving students have a way that works for them. And this is a way to have that available and to have that scaffolded and supported throughout the course of the class for all students, regardless of what they need. There may be moments where they need more and there may be moments where they don't, but this is going to be able to help them to be able to be self-aware, self-confident, and understand what they need and can advocate for. We're also hoping for increased student engagement and motivation. As Brenda was kind of referring to, there will be a variety of modalities and student choice within this. Even as the most confident learner, there are moments where there are topics that you're not super confident about, or something that you don't want to write about at that moment. And you might have another ability to showcase that, another way of showing your learning in a way that might be standing up and speaking to someone else. It might be creating a presentation. It might be utilizing some of those tech support services. And in this way, we have access for that for all students throughout the course of the day. We also hope for a supportive, growth-oriented classroom by engaging with students who have a variety of perspectives and working with a diverse group of learners. It's good for students and it prepares them for life outside of high school. Part of the work teachers will do is creating a classroom culture that values all students and what they bring to student learning. And I think that in part of the professional development, that was a big part of what we really loved. Was one of the first messages was that culture and that love of learning and recognizing what everyone is bringing is one of the key components to a successful classroom and to a successful school and to a successful business. And helping students to see that and model that throughout the course of the day is something that we're hoping to have as an outcome. We also want benchmark assessments to measure student progress and to provide additional support and challenge as appropriate. The flex period in the schedule provides an opportunity for even more support time. So when students may need more or may need less, they have classes and they know where they can turn to during that flex period. I think we've had a lot of questions also about, thinking about mental health for students and trying to recognize that, some students are always together in a small group in this fashion. This allows students to have more diverse grouping, not to be kind of following together within one group, and to stretch themselves, or to take a moment to say, you know what, in this lesson, I do need that graphic organizer. And that's okay, because it's just accepted in this classroom, and it's a part of the way that we learn. And I think helping students and helping anyone at any level to recognize what they need and to be able to help advocate for that is going to support students to be successful.
Do you, sure. I know nobody likes it when they get their presentation interrupted, but do we currently have ideas about or an understanding of what level of flexibility our students make use of in terms of moving between levels over years? How often do our kids move up grades, and do we expect that, or do we look to that as a formal or informal kind of measure after this experiment? Do we predict that with additional scaffolding for kids who are in C1, they may be more ready for for honors after this? Is that part of our kind of understanding about how we want to implement this or look for data?
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely.
Sorry, get out of the way.
Another accident. I definitely believe that there will be some outcomes very similar to that. Typically, students do move up and down throughout, not only throughout their 4 years here, but throughout the course of a year. We'll have students who start off in one level and by late September, they've moved either up or down. So this won't be a change in that. Certainly you might see more students just because there's only 2 levels, maybe perhaps wanting to move up. I guess we'll have to see. I know in some of the schools that we talked to, they sort of seen an initial bump in honors early on, understandably so, but they felt things settled pretty quickly after that. But the fluidity that we have here, I don't anticipate changing. And like I said, students are in different levels at different times over the 4 years, and even within the year, as we know, they change those levels as well. So, other questions?
What are the,
Sorry, do you want to go? Okay. Do you mind talking a little bit more in detail on kind of what the benchmarks are that you're looking at to decide if the program is a success or not? I'm assuming this is a one-year pilot? Multiple years? Like what is,
I think this is just it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've
Yeah,
never
we
used
have
the
a
word
pilot.
pilot.
Okay.
Yeah, we've never used that word pilot ever.
oh, okay.
You know,
Facebook may have, but we did.
I don't
So-
know. I
so
don't look
teachers
anymore.
have,
It's
you know,
great.
common
Neither
common
was told.
assessments.
Okay.
And those are kind of typically used to, you know, provide, you know, like I was saying before, to provide data in terms of grouping and in terms of, you know, reteaching, anything like that. So those are the measures that would be used.
Okay.
Just a quick question in terms of, I know you had your presentation a couple of Mondays ago. What were the predominant concerns of those rising ninth grade families?
Yeah.
In terms of what were the themes?
Some of the questions were regarded the accommodations and how we were going to support our students on who have accommodations on IEPs at 504 and whatnot. So there were questions related to more of that Mary
Okay.
addressed tonight. Yeah, there were a handful of questions.
Sorry, one more. And you said that that this was going to be a better support from 8th grade to 9th grade, and that's because there's not leveling in 8th grade? Is that the logic behind?
Well, I
Why
think
it's a better
what we see
transition?
is just a change developmentally in students.
Okay.
I spent 7 years as a principal at Pike, and I was always amazed at sort of the transformation that happens when those 8th graders walk the 30 yards across, you know, the grass into this building here. And what we see out of students, and, you know, really it's, if you think about it, it's kind of February-ish when we're making placement recommendations as 8th graders, trying to project where they're going to be, you know, 6 months later in grade 9, on top of a transition to a new building. So, you know, I think in general we do a pretty good job, but it's not an exact science by any means. And so I think that's just a product of trying to fit students into the levels that we think might be best for them, as opposed to getting them more of a similar foundation that allows us to see how they are as learners and better place them, or make better recommendations for them for the remaining time in high school.
Okay, that makes sense.
And that was the feedback that the one thing that we kept hearing from some of the schools was that piece right there, is the placement can be such a wild card
Right.
from 8 to 9. And the more levels you have, the more challenging
Right,
it is to get
yeah.
that right. So
Okay.
I think I know the answer, but I'll ask anyways. So the impact on 10th grade is really none. Is that correct?
for next year's 10th grade,
Yeah, for any given ninth grader, they effectively have the same options
correct, yeah.
afterwards. It's
Correct,
just-
And the same foundational base as well, as Brenda was saying, the classes themselves are not getting less skills or less material or anything going into 10th grade as a result of this. The actual measures that are used within 9th grade right now will maintain. The standards remain the same. It's just kind of the modalities and the way that the instruction happens. And I think, you know, another big piece is having conversations about working with staff and making sure that it was not just this like one professional development that we do in March of 2023 and then walk away. I think a big piece is having conversations and making sure that that professional development continues so that it's something that they can continue to access, they can continue to bring back questions, they can get together as a group led by, you know, administration to have ongoing support and make sure that anything that they need, they have access to and the supports as well.
Super. Thank you very much.
I just want to thank them. I mean, this has been something they've been working on, and certainly the new schedule was the first piece of this, and then, you know, looking at how we can best, you know, make that transition for kids, and I think they're doing a great job with this. I appreciate the work on that.
And just like you said, Brenda, you taught these multi-level. So I had a daughter who went to a school where it was all levels, including honors and AP, all within one class. And I found that she found it a very enriching learning environment because all kinds of kids, all kinds of learners were in that one class. So I think it's great. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next is discuss the annual town meeting warrant, Article 20 and 26.
Madam Chair, those were in your materials. We received these from the town, that they're looking to have both the school committee to co-sponsor both the elementary school feasibility study funding and also the PPA solar one as well. So I thought we would talk about it. I know that one thing that's important, because we had talked about it at SBC, or I was there at SBC, maybe you can jump in, is that there was $250,000 allocated last year in FY23 that was not spent. It seemed like there was a feeling from SBC that that wasn't going to be enough to kind of get us through for the next
get
year
through
or
this
so, that an
whole
additional
list.
$250,000 was needed to kind of do some of this work that folks wanted. So I guess one of the things that SBC has to figure out, and Michelle and I have talked about this, is they have to figure out what can we glean from the first feasibility study that's going to be successful to use in this next project. So that will really depend on what the how much money is used because of that. You know, there's a lot of money that was spent already with a lot of materials that we have already and feedback and information, so we can use that. But there was still a feeling that an additional 250 was needed for FY24 as well.
I don't know. I mean, at the last SBC meeting, I know we were briefly talking about, I think the warrant hadn't come out yet, and there were some people missing. So we were talking about options of having to possibly ask for this on the floor. So it's nice to see it in the warrant, so we don't have to ask for it from the floor. So I guess I'm hopeful that the town supports this and understands that this will continue to help move things forward so we can find a solution for Dale Street.
And essentially last year, all of these things, which have the potential to be quite expensive and need to be done, you know, in a more intensive way than they were on this site. It's really difficult to see how those would be able to be comprehensively done with $250,000. I mean, it cost us far more than that previously. So simply because it's legislated, I'm happy to know that the town has realized that it's really not something you can do on $250,000. That there was kind of a instead of a including all of these things with $250,000 is almost impossible.
Yes, and we don't
To
want to
do.
stall the project. We
Right.
want to keep moving.
So we want to keep it moving, and so I'm heartened that
Yeah.
they've included this. So I, certainly I would be willing to support it.
I agree.
Do we want to discuss the second one at the same time, or do you want to,
Sure.
what do you want to do?
We can discuss this second one. Actually, we should vote separately since they're two different items. So do we have a motion to approve the warrant article? Item
Article
number
20.
20.
So moved.
So move second. Do we have a second?
So I think the motion would be to co-sponsor.
Correct.
Yeah, to
With
co-sponsor
the
them.
Board of Selectmen?
Yes.
All right. So do we have a motion to co-sponsor warrant article 20 along with the Board of Selectmen?
So moved.
So move Jess.
Second, Michelle.
Second, Michelle Kirkby. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Fantastic. Thank you. All right, Article 26.
So this is related to the power purchase agreements that we've talked about at several meetings with the Energy Committee. I think this is the final step for us to start looking at doing a project, whether we do it, I think we've talked about doing it at Blake first, and then, looking at this building and then over at Memorial as well. But in order for us to get that project moving, this would need to pass at town meeting. So I think that the town has asked me to ask you to co-sponsor this,
Along with the Energy Committee.
along with the Energy Committee as well.
And we've talked about this.
I
Exactly.
mean, for
And
a
we support this,
no-brainer,
yeah.
which is a wonderful thing.
Yes.
Yeah,
We support this.
and
We
something
need
that we
this.
desperately need to manage our expenses.
Exactly. All right, so, do we have a motion to approve co-sponsoring Article 26 along with the Energy Committee?
So moved.
So moved tonight. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second, Leo Brem. All in favor?
Aye.
Great. Super. Thank you. Any other items since posting on March 21st?
No, Madam Chair?
FY24 budget. Update. Vote.
So in your materials, you have a updated budget request and budget numbers for FY24. As you know, last week, we were asked by the warrant committee in the town to reduce our budget again. And that would, we were told at that point that if we reduce an additional number, that they asked us that the total amount of reductions would be 296,133. That if we got our request down to 41,176,784, or an increase of 4.23, that the budget for both the school and the town would be balanced, and that the process would be done and ready for town meeting. So in order to make those reductions, Michael and I put together some suggestions that we think, after going through the budget this past week, and looking at ways that we could reduce the number. So when you look at the retirements, there's a Wheelock School reading teacher, speech and language teacher, and Dale Street nurse. So we had originally budgeted the number that the step in lane, what you see to the right of the paper. So if you see Wheelock School reading teacher, masters plus 30, step 6, that's what we originally had budgeted for. After going through and talking with the principals and seeing what they're getting for resumes, we feel comfortable reducing that to masters 15, step 5 as a budget number. The same for the original masters plus 30, step 13 for speech and language. We feel comfortable with masters plus 30, step 10, which would reduce it 9,100. And then the Dale Street nurse, masters plus 45 max. We feel like that we could, with the resumes that we have, we could hire someone potentially at masters plus 15 max, which would be a reduction of 7,367.99. So that's the first tier retirements that gets us down a bit.
So
And
we're
then-
not eliminating any
Oh, no.
We're just,
So
These are
we,
people who are.
right, so we had budgeted a certain number, and then now that we're getting resumes in, we know that we can reduce that number by what we have there, because we feel like none of the folks that are in the pool are gonna be at the same level as the people that are retiring. So then we have a 1-year leave request, and then some scheduling changes at the high school that will allow us to reduce 109.13. So there's a request for a 1-year leave of absence that I've granted. Plus, we're looking at additional scheduling, because we'll know by the end of next week what that is, but we know that it will reduce a 1.0 FTE in total. It's probably not going to be one particular person. It's going to be a 1.0
The
FTE in
equivalent
total.
of a full.
Right.
Yeah.
Because based on the scheduling and where the kids are in their class course choices. So that's additional 109.13 reduction. And then we looked at our revolving accounts, and if we had any ways to move folks that are in the operating budget into the revolving accounts. So our INVEST program, our special education program at the high school, we can move the entire teacher's salary into the revolving account, because we receive tuitions from other districts in that program. So we can reduce another 68,803. And then our administrative assistant and food service, and then 10% of the 3 elementary custodians into the food service revolving account. So that would be a reduction of 19,137, and then 14,612. And then because we have money in our ESSER grant, we're going to carry over. We're able to take the assistant athletic director and the teaching assistant position out of the budget and put it back in ESSER for 1 more year. So we kicked the can down the road a little bit with ESSER. We're able to carry over that money to FY24, but those 2 positions that were in the operating are now back into the ESSER account. So the total reductions there are 296,133, which gets us to a total new request for FY24 of 41,176,784, for an increase of 4.23%. So those are the options that we went through. I think other options to consider, if you don't want to go through those, we could look at adding technology fees to generate additional revenue and offset technology costs. Or we could look at adding bus fees to offset transportation costs. But that's, everything else is level funded as far as supplies, materials, all that, except for just a couple of items. Utilities obviously is more, and a couple other items around textbooks at the high school. But for the most part, everything is level funded for FY23. So this is what we thought and what we would recommend that you would approve for the additional reductions that were asked by the warrant committee of the town.
Can I ask, I agree with moving the INVEST program teacher and the rest of the positions, or percentages of positions, over to the revolving accounts and the food service revolving accounts. I know that our food service revolving accounts have taken a significant hit over the last few years. And is that starting to,
They're back up
Getting
now because
back.
of the reimbursement. So
Right.
once lunch went free for all students and breakfast and lunch, and breakfast and lunch were free for all students, we still got reimbursement from the federal government on that.
Okay.
So we're doing pretty well
we're
there.
doing all right there? Oh, and then the revolving account, I just get to say this, it's the last meeting, but you know that I'm pretty invested in, trying to figure out how within our revolving accounts and building up our revolving accounts, we can start thinking about how we can start lowering tuition for full day K so that eventually we can end up with an equitable position for every kid. Is this where we are looking to, or have we been looking at this revolving account to be kind of building that up? Has that been one of our cushions
For
to try to
kindergarten,
get?
for kindergarten preschool?
Yeah.
Yes, because one of the things that we're looking at when we have the additional preschool at Wheelock, there'll be additional revenue that comes in there. We had this conversation at the warrant committee on Monday night. You know, I think if you're going to move toward a full day kindergarten for all model, it's going to be an override type budget issue. It's not going to be something that we can just put in there and just absorb, you know, as a district. So I think that's something that's, you know, broader conversation with the community and everyone else to do that. You do get additional Chapter 70 money when you do full day, but it's a year after. So you don't get it the year you do it, you get it the year after. So it's definitely a conversation that we need to have. And I know that when we instituted in 2014, our goal at that point was to have free for within 5 years, and that obviously has not happened.
Yeah.
So
But
definitely
we're still, I
consideration.
mean, obviously, we're still looking at that, and that's an important part of what we think we'll be delivering, and this doesn't necessarily ding that.
It does not.
Feel
I
good
might-
that we're not eliminating.
My only comment, I hate to see sacrifice of TV.
Right.
I trust your, you know,
Yeah, I mean, I think
know,
it goes a
you
little bit,
know
Time
where
and
the-
tightening.
goes a little bit
it
to
is.
the enrollment too, that we talked
Yeah.
about in the beginning of this process. You know,
Yeah.
as we looked at the enrollment, you know, reduction at the high school, we have the larger group of classes coming back up in elementary school, and now that lower group that was, you know, in middle school, you know, a few years ago that we talked about reducing then, there in the high school. So we feel pretty comfortable that we can do that, and it's someone for the most of this. One FTE is someone that is going on a leave for a year and coming back. So it's not like we're eliminating
Yes.
someone's position. You know, it's a requested leave that happened right prior to the budget process that we honored. And it allows us not to replace that for 1 year and get to the number we need to get to.
More than anything, we can at least try to take advantage of this very short period of time that we have this, the 2008 recession lull, as opposed to the pandemic lull, and then, yeah.
Other questions? To vote on the update budget as presented by Dr. Marsden.
Can you vote the number, please?
Yes, of course.
That will be what the town would want.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, sure.
I'm actually really hoping that you can answer this question. After looking at the warrant committee number, there was additional money that from the ESSER grant related to the late bus. And I'm just curious, because the ridership has been so low, is the remaining 22,300 a contractual issue that you can't like basically end the
No.
pilot?
No, we could end it.
Okay,
Definitely.
because I
You
know it's
we're
been.
gonna we're gonna look at it again in the spring. I think in the fall, we had much more ridership than we had in the winter. And then, you know, hopefully in the spring it picks up again.
Okay, 'cause it seems like it's like 90% empty.
Oh, there's not many kids on it.
Yeah.
I mean, for those kids that use it, it works for them.
Right.
But I know that was something that we've heard about for years, and we thought it was gonna be a lot more ridership than what it is.
I just wonder if that was additional source of savings, that's all.
No,
Okay.
no, thanks.
Thanks.
So, do we have a motion to approve the new FY 24 budget of $41,176,900 $76,784, which is an increase of 4.23%.
So moved.
So we have Brenda, we have a second.
Second, Michelle Kirkby.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
I'd just like to thank Michelle. I know that we've had many meetings, as liaison with the warrant committee. And the warrant committee has done a lot of work on this budget, and it was nice to do it in a way that we did it without all the drama and everything else. It was really just trying to problem solve and make sure, everyone could get to where they needed to get to. And Ed Vizella and Steve Callahan were great to work with, so really appreciate it.
Second that, Steve were great.
Michelle, there has been a very positive last couple of years in terms of working collaboratively. So that's great. Alrighty, so Massachusetts School Building Authority Statement of Interest.
Yes, so
It's
we,
that time.
yes, in your materials, you have the updated SOI that we put together. We've updated it for this year. So we've taken some things out and added some things. If we've made adjustments in terms of repairs at Dale Street, it's all in there. And we're asking for your blessing to submit it. We hope to be on the selectmen's agenda next week or two. I think at their April 4th meeting, I'm hoping. And then we'll be able to submit that by the deadline of April 14th or 15th. But the SBC recommended this. They pretty much told us that they would support it, and it seemed like it was a no-brainer to at least submit it and see what happens.
Any other questions, comments regarding the MSBA SOI? Start.
Not the first time you've seen it.
I was gonna say everything old is new again. Well, I would make a motion to, what are we making a motion for, Anime?
To submit
To submit the SOI
to the MSBA.
on the MSBA.
So moved, Tim. I know, second, Tim.
Second, motion by Jess Riley, seconded by Tim. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, wonderful. Yay,
Thank you.
thank you. All right, the Metro West Adolescent
Sorry,
Health
before we
Standard.
graduate
Oh, sorry.
from SBC stuff,
Yeah.
we need to talk about what we're doing for the next SBC meeting.
So I think for the next SBC meeting, so election is Monday.
Correct?
So I figured that Jess would attend. Your meeting is on Wednesday,
Correct.
and then we have our next meeting on the 13th. You folks will vote in the new person on the 13th, and that person will just take over. So Jess will be attending one more meeting.
So after the election, I will separately reach out to the two new members and touch base with them in regards to
Your thoughts?
their thoughts, the SBC, the expectations, and then I can help them tune in if they want to the next SBC meeting.
Yes.
And then as a new collective school committee, we'll vote on the new member, and then they will attend the meeting at the end of April. Jess, are you okay with that?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I almost made plans for Wednesday just so I wouldn't have to go, but, no, I'm kidding. Yeah, I just, I want to make sure that there isn't an open meeting law issue with you contacting two new members of our school committee. And
Yes.
how does that work? How do we do that?
Um,
And by we, I mean not me.
I reckon, since they're not yet school committee members, if you could please reach out to them before Monday.
Okay.
And just
Ask them
give
to
them the
consider.
heads up
Yeah, maybe watch some meetings.
and invite them to come to,
Really think about it.
tune in on the Wednesday meeting. Then we're not violating anything.
Okay.
And then, they can come to the April 13th meeting with the decision.
Obviously, they can speak to Dr. Marston.
Yeah.
They could speak to
Weber.
me. They could speak to
Yeah.
Anime, if they want additional information. But that way, you're not deliberating outside, even if it's just a simple conversation about
Yeah.
the possibilities.
An FYI, yep, okay.
Good catch, Jess.
You get to be a pro.
Alrighty, very good. Now the Metro West Health Survey update. I can maybe start with that?
Sure.
Yeah. So last week, Dr. Marsden and I met with Russ Becker, what's Mary's last name? Fitzgerald? Fitzgerald, and Kathy McDonald. And in terms of bringing this information, the Metro West Health Survey information that is so critical to our community, so vital, and how do we get it out to the community? How do we educate them? How do we let them know of resources, etc.? So this is what I love when people get together, is all the brainstorming that went on. So at first it was going to be just a presentation like in years past, you know, coming in front of PTO. Then Mary had the genius idea of, you know, why don't they sit in groups of tables and we have it more interactive? And so they would present a piece, and then they would have questions at their tables so that people at the tables can connect with each other. I think many of us who have had experiences with our own children with struggles, that when we learn that there are other folks who are either struggling or who want to learn from us, connections are made, empathy is built, and I think richer discussions happen. And our town is full of resources, but there's also a ton of stigma with mental health. So if we can continuously push that envelope forward, that we all suffer, you know, in our homes with these issues, and if we can come together as a community, share resources, and have a sympathetic ear, I think I'm actually really excited. And you guys picked a date. I believe it was Monday, May 8th.
May 8th, yes.
For this community, and it's not just for families. It's going to be open to the community. And
It hit me when we did that vote that we should be using the MSBA language for the vote for the SOI.
Oh, yeah.
That we didn't use that, so I'm sorry, I'm just trying to get that up so we
Okay.
can, you guys
It's,
can read that.
it's a bear.
okay,
Yeah.
So,
well remembered.
you
Yeah.
got where would you hold it?
They were thinking where they have access to roundtables, so at Memorial. You know.
Oh, yeah, Memorial Cafeteria was the place that we thought was a great place to facilitate the conversation,
Mhm.
as opposed to being in a long table and not being able to speak to each other, so,
I think Memorial too would make it more accessible to younger parents.
exactly.
Yeah, and it'll be you know, taking the road down memory lane for us older people.
I do think, though, from what I have seen over the last several years, in the last few years in particular, the more people I talk to who very quietly will say, yeah, it's been really hard, or that they're struggling with many of the same things that many parents are struggling with, and how siloed we are. And that sometimes I think our kids are not anywhere near as siloed about the topic, but about whether they struggle is still tremendously shameful to them, and that's really, it's just such a shame that we have managed to take something with all of this history behind it around, you know, whether mental health was a moral issue or a failing, or you just didn't have good enough parenting, or you screwed up when they were 3, or whatever. It's not that. It's biology. And if we can't help each other with something that's so multimodal, then we're not going to get our kids through it. Because, you know, like they said at the MASC, the kids are not all right, and neither are the adults. Because when you watch a child struggle, it is like watching your heart outside your body. So anyway, okay.
So true.
Thank you.
So I'm very grateful, and we're so fortunate as a community to have that partnership with Medfield Outreach and we as a school district have invested so much, so many resources towards SEL support, guidance. So we just need to let people know about them.
And community is probably the biggest part of that, you know?
All right. Anything else to add to that before we revote?
No.
Okay.
Good.
find the language?
Yeah, I'm just double checking it here. Because it's saying here that the cities and towns, vote of the school committee authorizing superintendent of schools to submit the SOI. And then the form of vote, and we've done this 3 times, I don't know why it's.
I might even have it written down.
No, I have it right here. It's just, but they're saying here that the language says, in accordance with charter, bylaws, ordinances, has voted to authorize the superintendent to submit. So that's to me is the language that we submit for them after the fact. Yeah, okay, I think we're good.
We're good?
We're good.
Okay. So community engagement, communication, any updates, folks?
I don't have any major updates. We're continuing to see increasement of followers amongst all 3 of our social channels. I think that's great because that's organic growth. Like, we've only done our original plug at the very beginning to try to get people to follow along with us. So we're up to 761, and then our every other Friday district posts on kind of what's going on continue to again increase numbers there in regards to people liking and commenting on them. So I feel like that says if they're seeing that every other Friday, they're probably seeing the stuff in between. So that makes me feel good about it. And then this spring, I think, we're at that point of the year where things are just going to go into warp speed. And so there'll be a lot more messaging, I think, coming up over the next couple weeks. So
Thank you very much.
No problem.
I read a little bit further.
All right, that's cool.
And I don't have I think the update is what we said prior to, trying to promote the focus groups and the strategic plan. But it's also might be a reminder, and especially as the last meeting too, I think the concept of the meeting with the PTO at the beginning of the year and then towards the end, I think, I want to do that as well, because then it would be give them a little time. Hey, is there any questions or anything you want to discuss? And it just keeping that idea going. And that was high level. We were just thinking, again, being very loose, but April, May, maybe it's kind of a wrap up. So it's just more a reminder, but that falls in that category. And I forget what schools you folks.
Dale.
I don't know. I had a meeting that day. No, I think I was.
yeah, Memorial.
I was Memorial,
You're with Jenny and Daniel.
but I see them every day, so we were okay.
All right, super. Shall we?
Yes. All right, it starts here, then you have to insert everything. And these are the 2 reasons that we're submitting. 5 and 7. We're trying to make it hard for your last meeting.
All righty, take 2. Having convened an open meeting on March 23rd, 2023, prior to the SOI submission closing date, the school committee of Medfield, in accordance with its charter, bylaws, and ordinances, has voted to authorize the superintendent to submit to the Massachusetts School Building Authority the statement of interest form dated March 23rd, 2023 for the Dale Street School located on Dale Street, which describes and explains the following deficiencies and the priority of category for which an application may be submitted to the Massachusetts School Building Authority in the future. So then I have to
So 5 and 7 would be the 2 reasons.
replacement, renovation, or modernization of school facilities systems such as roofs, windows, boilers, heating and ventilation systems to increase energy conservation and decrease energy-related costs in a school facility, and replacement of or addition to obsolete buildings in order to provide a full range of programs consistent with state and approved local requirements. And hereby further specifically acknowledges that that by submitting the statement of interest form, the Massachusetts School Building Authority in no way guarantees the acceptance or the approval of an application, the awarding of a grant, or any other funding commitment from the Massachusetts Building Authority, or commits the town of Medfield to filing an application for funding with the Massachusetts School Building Authority. Do we have a motion?
A motion to take the place of the,
A motion to replace the last motion and accept this one that I just read.
So moved.
Thank you, Leo. So moved. Second.
Second, Michelle.
Second, Michelle. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, you.
You guys are gonna have to do this just a little straighter. Like maybe in a second meeting, so the MSBA thinks we really take them seriously, because we do. We do.
All right, well, good catch, then we didn't have to have an emergency meeting or anything like that. All right, strategic plan update.
all right, thank you, Madam Chair. So we had our first set of meetings this past week with the consultants. So they met with the leadership team for 90 minutes or so on Tuesday, and then they met with some town department heads and the CPAC board, and then you folks. So they got a lot of information already on Tuesday. They're looking forward to the process. We start again on April 3rd, and they'll be meeting with teachers, students, and what else is on that? Parents, the community members, all that is on that day. Then the day after, on the 4th, will be Board of Selectmen, Warrant Committee, and Town Moderator.
So there'll be one open to the community.
One to the community.
April 3rd.
April 3rd,
At
at
6:30.
6:30 in the
6:30 at
Dale
Dale
Street
Okay.
cafeteria.
Okay, cool. And then that's gonna be advertised through Patch, the paper,
Yes.
social media. Do we have time to put up a sandwich board or something?
We have to have selectmen approval for that.
Okay.
But we'll get that out, to those outlets. We sent email to parents yesterday, so that
Right, okay,
alert them of that as well.
okay. Council on Aging?
Yes, we're gonna send it to them as well.
Okay, good. All right, very good. Super.
Where did you say it was?
Dale Street cafeteria.
6:30.
It was a nice opportunity kind of to be able to have, well, first of all, I think I started or shortly thereafter the strategic plan the first time. And it was very nice to be able to, 6 years later, to have like kind of a final kind of brain dump of all the things that have happened over the last 6 years. And it's certainly a good opportunity. It's nice.
No, this is a wonderful opportunity for the community to really voice.
And then mid-April, there'll be a survey that will go out to the community again. So if folks don't have a chance to participate in the focus groups and the forums, then they'll be able to fill out similar information in the survey. So we'll put the survey links up on Patch, and we'll put that in the paper as well, and get that out there. We could probably do hard copies if we need to in certain places. I think we did that last time at the library and senior center, so.
Yeah.
We'll do that again.
So the survey is open to everybody in the
Yes.
community. Okay.
But we'll be tracking IP addresses.
I'd have to talk with them on that. Yeah.
I mean, I think
'cause they're-
we've certainly
they're
had problems
running
with
it, so-
before, so we better make sure that that's something we just, that is a safeguard.
Cool. Policy update.
Yeah, so a couple updates. In the packet, you have the suggested modifications to section A and section B. They're really being presented as informational, meaning, we'd like you to review them, and we would discuss them in the next meeting. So that was part one. We are continuing to make progress. We went through section C and D today with Jeff and Michael, and I think that, we have some other updates coming. So get excited for that. And I think we're targeting mid-April to go through the next batch. So I think in advance, especially for those Some on my left and my right might be looking for some light reading. And you have that option, which is
Can you put it
fantastic.
on an audiobook? Because I do a lot of
And
driving.
others, there will be a lot of red, and I think, I think we are just gonna have to read through it and work through it. It may be, like, the theory was, hey, you go through first reading, second reading, vote, but I would rather that we all have some discussions to get a process that we can all start getting familiar with. But yeah, it's an interesting one. It is, whoever said it, it's helpful the way that the MASC is like, they definitely have a process. They reminded us they've done it with about 100 school districts.
Mhm.
And I think the first time we took it on, they didn't have all the resources.
They didn't have their resources in place, yeah.
Yeah, so it's an interesting one.
It sounds like it's a
We-
much more participatory
Yeah,
struggle.
yeah, for sure. So, yeah, and thanks in advance for everybody's help.
Thank you.
Andre over here keeping us honest too.
All right, so, folks are just, with that, in the next meeting, you guys all have a discussion.
We know you'll be watching anime.
With the popcorn.
So Tim, that next meeting, that'll be the first reading of the. Talk about this today. so-
Yeah, the terms, I would have to look up, yeah, it would be the first reading, like, review it now, it would be read, discuss. And I'll be honest, in some cases, it might, why exactly did we make one change versus another? We circle back. But as we looked at it, I think it is worthwhile too. I said, sometimes we leave things that could be changed, and we're not necessarily going through the history of 100+ years
Right.
to get these policies in place, and why did we do everything? We definitely want to flag out the areas where we know there's risk, where it seems like it, really logical to make a shift, and sometimes you might say, hey, it's not perfect, but it's working right now. And I think that's the spirit, to try to get it all digitized, because it'll work better once it's out there. So looking forward to making some progress. But the theory would be we'd put it on the agenda every meeting, first reading. Then we'd put C and D in the packet for review. And we're doing a great job, from what I understand, of getting them out there on the site. So even if you're not here, you'll be able to get C and D and get up there in public comment. Let us know
Oh.
what's going on.
Jessica Riley, 81 Flintlock Lane. I'd like to point out.
3 minutes, ma'am.
Thank you for the time commitment. This is huge. All right, Lily, you've been so patient. Thank you.
Yeah, so for student council, next week is kindness week. So that's when we do the compliment wall, and then we do like a spread the word inclusion poster that you just sign at lunch. And then tomorrow actually is semi for the freshmen and sophomores, so I'll be there running it, and that's exciting. Yeah. And then we'll have one of our biggest events of the year, Putting for Patients, coming up. I think the date is April 30th. Which is basically mini golf that's out on the turf, and we raise money for the Jimmy Fund. And we're like one of Putting for Patients' like biggest raisers every year, fundraisers. I think we raised like over $12,000 last year, which is really good. So we'll see if we can beat that. Yeah, that's about it.
How's everything going with, like, kids getting into college and decisions are starting to be made? Or?
It's good. Yeah, I think most people here by April 1st from all their schools. So it's good. Yeah, and then we have the senior fashion show on Saturday, which is also exciting.
And the play happened, or the musical?
Yes.
Right. Super. Feeling good? Second semester, senior year.
Sorry about the no snow days.
I know. Come on.
I was just thinking that today. We're actually we might actually,
How long
Might
ago
actually
has
get
that
out by
has
the
that ever
15th.
happened before?
But do you ever first week?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, but that was like 20 years ago.
More than that.
26, yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
My nephew was born that day,
Didn't they
as a matter of fact.
have a unique senior snow day or something during COVID? What happened there? They lobbied for something? We did, yes.
I would say that year was a very special year.
But apparently they did an excellent job of presenting it to you. They did a great job.
Plant that seed, Lily. All right. Cool. All right. Anyone else?
Can't make it last any longer than it will.
Could I?
Yeah, please.
I just want to thank you, Jess, for the hundreds and hundreds of hours of volunteering and, you know, being a support for me and always keeping kids in the forefront, always. We went through COVID, we went through a lot of stuff in 6 years and 9 years, so I'm better at my job because of both of you, and I just really appreciate what you guys have done, so thank you.
Thank you. I can honestly say I am significantly smarter and just I feel like this job, if anybody ever thinks about running and they're on the fence, do it, because you will never know the things that you will learn being on a school committee, good and bad, but mostly good. It really does expand your understanding of your community and children in general. It's been wonderful.
Hold on, don't close the meeting yet. I need somebody to help me with something.
You're gonna.
Oh dear God. No, not another living thing. I can't do it.
No. Checked it.
Anime, I was saying the other day, I think it is possible, I might be second, but I think it's possible that you may have been in more meetings than any single school committee member ever. Do you remember, we have what, 42?
But due to budget cuts, we couldn't do the electroplated watches, so.
Oh my God. Oh, thank you, you guys. Oh, beautiful. Thank you. Thank you
All your guidance and
We hug
dedication.
after meetings.
Yes.
I had,
Oh,
I just, sure, if I must have.
Yeah, I would second, I mean, what Jeff said, like,
I would second.
yeah, I second that. On behalf of just, I mean, I get that I'm the newest one here, but on behalf of the families and the children, I just, prior to even coming here, I recognized how much you guys kept the children and the families at the forefront of every conversation and how tirelessly you advocated for all of them. And I think the thing that is missed by many is the amount of work and energy that happens behind the scenes. And you guys are constantly just pouring your hearts and souls into everything. And I'm so grateful for you, for the service that you did, and then personally grateful for how much you helped me this past year. So I just really appreciate both of you so much. So thank you so much.
you.
I have, yeah, just a couple comments. I say, one, thank you. When I joined, school committee was a desirable place to join. It was cool. It was something I wanted.
We are cool kids.
I wanted to do. So that was a great start. Collectively, you guys, you both, you led us, as new members, you led us into a pandemic. You led us through a pandemic, and you kind of let us out. And we all know that was quite a journey. I echo what you just said. The amount we learned from each other was amazing. There's so many areas. You know, what can we call out? There was a pandemic. There was a new school. There was a union contract we got through, and I'm so thankful that we did last year. We could go on and on, but I eventually, those of you who know, I'm in analytics. They have those word cloud things, and I was like, gee, that would have been a really good idea, right? But we didn't. But I just started thinking of some words, anyways, that some of them will be obvious. One might be one versus another, but I thought of words like, honestly, like heart and hustle, equity is I will call you out specifically. Thank you so much. I've learned so much. You've been tireless about that. Will, tenacity, patience, kindness, gratitude. Some of these, it didn't feel like it at the time, but joy, humor, sarcasm. Not sure where that one.
I'm not sure either.
Tears, and fun. These were just a few. Others can throw up, but they are things that came to mind. I mean, it's been an amazing run. I'm so thankful for the time, for what you folks have done for our town and for our kids. And I know I'm going to miss you, but I know I can call.
Yeah, hopefully they don't ghost us.
Yeah, they may or may not answer.
They got new phone numbers already.
Sure.
I mean,
I'll be the one running around the corner at Brothers.
I would say that in my 5 years, you guys were very accepting and guiding me and talking me off the ledge when I get all fired up. Both of you have separate phone calls, numerous times, and you're such good listeners. And I think that's one of the key factors of this role is being able to listen. We listen to the community, we listen to each other, and then get it positioned in the right way. So I think that you both have just perfected that. So you'll be missed.
Thank you. All right, so, anyway, I think I said at the very beginning, the last words my husband said to me as leaving the house is, "Do not cry," but
Did he forget who he married? It's part of you. It's okay.
I know, I'm trying to accept it. But then my friends walk in, and I'm so lucky. But we're only as good as our team, right? And I've got the school committee team led by Dr. Marsden, and as a couple of folks just said here, I've grown so much, I've learned so much, and the two words that keep coming into my mind and into my heart is gratitude and awe. Great podcast about awe. Look it up, UC Berkeley. Anyways, but it's true. This feeling of gratitude and awe, what we've accomplished. I think of the students who have been present, Lily, and those who preceded you. And I was told this was thankless, but it wasn't. And sorry. I just want to, okay, I'm going to keep it that simple. Thank you, each of you. And as I at our last book club, and some of my pals are here from book club, we read this book, Mad Honey, and I left the book thinking you were challenged. There was, I've told kids, Lily, and, in my confirmation, live with open hearts and open minds. And, but I was challenged to live with an even bigger mind and bigger heart because of this experience. And I just want to say, Dr. Marsden, you have been tireless. I know you get pooped on sometimes, and but just the dedication and my favorite memory, and I think, there was just maybe a challenge of the day, and I was in the office signing warrants, and you just said, you know what, I'm going to go out and see the kids because I need to lift my spirits. And to me, that kind of signified it all, that that is where you draw your energy and what makes you such a great leader here in our school district. And we're very fortunate that we've had such consistency on the school committee in leadership. And I haven't forgotten you folks who make all this happen as well. And I'm going on and on. Thank you, thank you, thank you. These are my pals here who have helped me with elections and school building committee and everything else to support me. And of course, I can't not thank my family because they've sacrificed a lot with me being here. My husband, my mother, children.
All the
So-
babysitting money over the
Yes.
years.
So, all right, enough. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Aye. And bye.
Next December, we could just pull papers again.